The Adventure of Writing a Lie and Camping with Tara. Part 1. The story I'm about to tell you has never been told before, except for the individuals involved whose identity will be protected by the use of false names. No one alive, past or present, knows of this tale. Tara and myself were around 6 months into our relationship when thoughts of a holiday popped into my head. It just popped right in there. I knew that she had some leave on the second week of August, so I casually mentioned the idea of us getting away for a few days. Her face lit up like a Christmas tree. I was glad. I remembered holidays of girlfriends past, and had booked a pitch on a campsite right on the cliffs in Cornwall. I'm a very good camper. I imagine me as always waking up and lighting the stove to make Tara her skinny coffee macchiato tea with scrambled eggs and salmon on crisp bread. Lots of cuddles before we walk the 12 beautiful scenic miles along the coast to Bedworth and Steps, stopping for a cup of tea from my flask and a skinny coffee macchiato from hers. Right, fail to prepare, prepare to fail. First thing was to get the car serviced. With preparations almost complete, tent and camping equipment already packed into my recently serviced Citroen BX estate, I thought it was time to let my beloved Tara in on the details of our first holiday together. I had planned to set off for Cornwall on the 7th of August, which was a Sunday. I figured it might be a good day to travel, as most of the population of London would be in church until 1. I had told Tara about the camping trip on the 1st, and, just doing the maths right, yes, I had told her about the romantic, lovely camping trip on the 1st, and she started talking to me again on the 6th. So what's that, 4 or 5 days? On the second day of TS, Tara, silence in brackets, I had a glimmer of hope in the shape of a note, positioned by the kettle, which was a default agreed position for notes we sent each other. Tara had read up on camping and discovered glamping. "Is it glamping?" read the note, smelling gloriously of agent provocateur. I chased around the flat looking for a pen with which to reply. Nothing. Ah, there. I'm turning over an unwanted envelope. I paused for a second to lie, think. "Yes, of course it's glamping, Tara," I wrote. "Speak later. Love you," I lied. I'd never written a lie before. It's just the same as speaking one, only you leave material evidence of the lie behind to use against you. Exhibit 1, an envelope from MasterCard containing a late payment notice with an incriminating lie written by the accused on the back. After several conditions imposed by Tara were met by me, after numerous trips to Decathlon for items including a separate dressing tent, double king biggest mattress deluxe, or a portable generator, Honda off eBay in brackets, and an electric heater with a timer, the day of our departure arrived. I had never seen anyone ever take so much stuff camping, and that included Captain Scott on the race to the pole, even the indigenous nomads of where he had the golden eagle and went hunting hares with them on the telly. Even my mum, even. My poor car was ridiculously full, and I prayed that the engineers at Citroen had bargained on glamping with Tara when they developed the hydro-pneumatic suspension on the BX. Knowing the French, that could have been one of the design criteria, like the eggs in the 2CV across the ploughed field. The new Citroen glamping with Tara. Anyway, on top of my car load issues, Tara, my girlfriend and camping holiday companion, was looking forward to this trip on a similar par to an emergency dentist visit. However, not once since this idea just popped into my head, it just popped right in there, did I ever think that it was a bad one until we set off. Camping with Tara, Part 2. For me to continue with this account of glamping with Tara, it's important to reiterate that this is the first time that anyone, apart from the people directly concerned, have any knowledge of it. As mentioned earlier, I have changed most of the names to protect the identity of those concerned. The setting off of any journey is usually a time of excitement. I was excited in the run-up, the preparation. Loading the car was exciting, for example. Finding out that my Cal gas bottle was half full was exciting and financially satisfying. Setting off needed effort, I'll be honest, but the good thing was that Tara and myself were getting on. Soon her entire music collection was being played, the soundtrack to Sergio Leone Cornwall trip scored by Ennio Morricone himself. With 20 miles to go until Bristol and the M5, I pulled the laden Citroën off the M4 and into a services for a cup of tea and some ibuprofen. I reached for Tara's hand and held it until I needed to change down and park. It was 8:30 p.m. We'd made good time, really. We'll stop at the next services ploy seemed to have worked. We set off again at around 10 p.m. My nerves were so close to snapping. Tara had changed outfits twice, and her suitcase with the runner-up chosen outfit in was underneath everything in the back of the estate. The winning outfit was the one she had set off in. I didn't shout. I didn't say harsh, later regrettable words. I tried and for once succeeded in breaking my patriarchal conditioning. With this victory securely logged in my unconscious mind, I finally pulled onto the M4 after nearly 2 hours and tried to play my glad game. I was glad I had some ibuprofen in my pocket. Your turn. We soon joined the relatively quiet M5, and with Tara asleep, it was the reassuringly sound of the trusty XUD Citroën diesel that accompanied this part of the travelogue. We stopped a couple more times, less time-consuming times, and things were looking up. It was nice seeing Tara happy, excited even, looking forward to the glamping adventure ahead of us. I reached across and held her hand until my hand generated too much heat for it to be romantic. It was fine, we had talked about this very early in our relationship. No awkward surprises. I learnt very on in my relationship learning journey that awkward surprises can come back to haunt you. OK, Tara, music off, I've got to concentrate, we need the A30. And with relative ease, a few minutes later, we were on the A30, the road that would take us straight to our destination. I reached for Tara's hand and held it until I needed to change into fifth gear. She smiled. I was glad. Around 4 of Tara's songs later, the road ahead suddenly became full of traffic, both lanes to a crawl. Then stop, start, stop, start, then just stop. Tara wondered why we had stopped a few times, and I said I didn't know a few times until we both found out. The A30 was completely closed ahead due to an accident, and we were to follow the diversion. I figured we were 10 miles this side of Bodmin Moor. It might not be as bad as I first thought. The diversion signs were terrible. Tara had needed a personal break, and I found a petrol station open which had an outside loo. Outside? Unfortunately, I did not inherit my dad's sense of direction, and very soon, slightly completely lost, I pulled over and looked at the map. There, right, good, OK. The road I was on ran parallel to the A road of the diversion. If I carried on, I would rejoin the rest of the diverted people. Soon we would be back on the A30, and all this would be funny in the morning. The road we were on was quite dark. That was the biggest problem I had until my trusty Citroën began wobbling and sounding strange. I think I've got a puncture, Tara. I have to stop. I pulled over onto a lay-by, switched off, and was right with my diagnosis. The rear driver's side was a blowout. Tara, you'll have to get out. I've got to change the tyre. The spare was underneath the car, at the rear of the car in a harness, which was loosened by the flat end of a wheel brace, which in turn was under everything and more in the back. 20 minutes later I had unloaded the car and retrieved the jack and the wheel brace. Not long now, Tara. I quickly jacked up the car, think positive. After all, this road rejoins all of the rest of the diverted people. Soon we would be back with the collectively diverted on the A30, and all this would be even funnier in the morning. The wheel nuts cracked, 1 to go. Yeah! Yeah! Still 1 to go. 20 minutes and the bent Citroën wheel brace later, I admitted defeat. I explained the situation to Tara, who looked blankly back at me. Okay, I'm going to walk back, Tara. I'm sure we passed a phone box not too far back. I'll call the AA and then a taxi for you. There's a village not too far ahead, and you can have a lovely glass of wine and a bite, and I'll pick you up when we're all fixed. How's that? I genuinely felt for her and walked towards her, gave her a big loving "it will be all right" cuddle. She faced me and smiled. I was glad. I was right about the phone box. Mission accomplished. I was soon back at the stricken Citroën avec unhappy Tara. They said up to 2 hours, Tara, but I've got a plan. The taxi company said there's a small hotel about 7 miles away. I told them to book a room for us, and we'll spend the night there, start off fresh in the morning. How's that? The taxi will be here in a minute. Tara's face lit up like a Christmas tree. I was glad. The taxi arrived and I kissed Tara goodbye before she set off to the hotel with all of her luggage. I waited, walked around, sat, cursed, walked around, looked down, looked up. Wow! It was only now that I noticed the incredible, imposing-looking building on the opposite side of the road. It looked amazing. It wasn't very well lit, but looked magnificent, significant architectural importance, everything. Well, like a castle. With nothing else to do, I sat in the car and referred to my map, which had a comprehensive list of castles, grand buildings, landmarks, institutions for the insane. Can't be. When was this map published? I looked at my watch, remembering the AA man's ETA, drank the last drop of lukewarm tea, thought about Tara, and then reclined my Citroën seat to sleep. Writing a Lie and Camping with Tara, Part 3. I was camping with Mum and Dad. My little sister was there, but not my younger brother. Made sense, my parents looked very young. We'd loaded up the car to go on holiday. Then in an instant we were there. We were trying to pitch the tent, but however hard we tried, we couldn't. We couldn't put the tent up, no matter how hard we... I was startled out of my dream by the rude awakening my mum always said I would get one day. "Breakdown, mate," said the AA man, glaring at me through the window. "Ah, brilliant. You're not the AA?" "No, we're all emergency, all mucking in tonight. There's been a terrible pile-up on the A30. You're lucky I was passing on the way to the scene. Otherwise you might have been stuck here till morning." "Well, thanks, it's stupid, really. I just can't get the last wheel nut off the car to put the spare on. The trouble is they put them on with those windy guns. They don't think about anybody getting them off," said the breakdown man who wasn't part of the AA. I liked him, though, as he walked back to his lorry and returned with his big wheel nut taker offer. "This should do it," he said. "Yeah!" Nothing. The fourth wheel nut remained steadfast. I felt severely vindicated. I would be able to tell Tara that even the breakdown man couldn't take off the fourth one with his big bar wheel nut taker offer. "It's on tight, isn't it?" he said. "Yes," I replied, realising the missed sarcastic remark opportunity, but he didn't hear me anyway. He had already returned to his lorry to get his bigger bar wheel nut taker offer. He returned with his bigger bar one, but also with what looked like a length of scaffold pole. "Never underestimate your enemy. I haven't got time for this," he mumbled under his breath, as he put the bigger bar one onto the wheel nut, and then the scaffold-looking light pole over that, very lever-like, I thought. "What I want you to do is put your foot on the big one there when it makes contact with the wheel nut, so it don't come off. Do you understand?" I nodded and got into position. I was ready. The breakdown man got as high up the scaffold-looking light pole as he could reach, and I put my foot where he wanted, and exactly where he said to put it. He started with the downward force, gently at first, then more. Nothing. "This bastard is on tight, innit?" he said. "Yes," I replied, but he didn't hear me, because his gentle at first approach had been touched up a bit. or should I say, notched up a bit, to well over 11. The breakdown man was swinging on the bar as he extended the big bar like a monkey for about 15 minutes until finally, scrack! The breakdown managed to land on his feet with dignity and began to return the big bar in silence to their allocated places on his lorry. Hearing the urgency of the messages coming over the radio and sensing the embarrassment related to his bars, I suggested that I'd be able to manage it from here. Besides, I couldn't imagine the horror that awaited him at the scene of the accident on the A30. He set off with the pip of his hooter and a wave of the arm out of his lorry window. I gathered my thoughts, Tara, hotel, shower, then finally the job in hand. I jacked up the car, removed the punctured tyre and offered up the spare in its place. Just a little higher, I thought, waiting the jack, and there. All the time referring to the wheel fasteners as wheel nuts was not technically correct. They were actually studs, and studs were slightly harder to replace because you didn't have the benefit of the poke-out things to balance the wheels on as you secured the nuts. The studs were altogether, I can't see now. The studs mentioned were altogether in the plastic Citroen wheel trim for safety. So, as I mentioned, I leaned the spare into position. The spare wheel, as mentioned, was also still in perfect situ. Then, standing, I tripped on the jack, stumbled heavily, then, hopping, instinctively completely off balance to try and remain upright, resulted in my left foot landing with all my weight onto the edge of the aforementioned Citroen wheel trim. Underneath the wheel trim, to act as a circus seesaw fulcrum, was the bent French wheel brace. Of course it was. I landed banging my head on the back of the car just in time for front row seats to watch the wheel trim tiddly-wink the wheel studs over 6 feet into the pitch-dark dense shrubbery at the side of the lay-by. Oh, joy! I searched for nearly an hour with a torch that intermittently cut out just to properly take the mickey. I couldn't believe it. Tara would be waiting, warm and comfy. What would she think? She'd be asleep. No, she'd be waiting. Could I call the AA again? But what about the big accident? For one of the first times in my life, the pressure of life forced me to the ground. I sat cross-legged in the lay-by with my head in my hands for around 10 minutes, in despair, genuinely not knowing what to do. Lost your wheel nuts, have you? I took my hands from my head. Did I just hear a voice, or am I finally going insane? Lost your wheel nuts, have you? I jumped to my feet. Hello? Over here, look, I'm in the window. High up in the grand castle-like looking building that I had admired earlier on this shit evening was a light at a window. In the window was a man, talking to me about my wheel nuts. Hello, yes, I've lost my wheel nuts. I'm in trouble. Have you got a phone in your room? I shouldn't be in here, said the man at the window. Right, well, I can help you with a lift, if I could use your phone. I shouldn't be in here. Would you help me? Of course, but I'm in a jam here myself. My girlfriend is waiting for me at the hotel in the village, and I'm stuck. Right, well, loose your... Listen, you've lost your wheel nuts, haven't you? Listen, take one of the wheel nuts off the 3 remaining wheels, said the man at the window. Put those on the 3 of the 4th wheel, the spare, I presume, and that will get you to safety. I was in silent thought for over a minute. Take one of the wheel nuts off the 3 remaining wheels, put them on the 4th. I looked at the two. That's a brilliant idea, I shouted at the face in the light at the window. Make sure you replace the missing wheel nuts as soon as possible, though. Ideally, they need to be put on with a torque wrench by a professional mechanic. And then will you come back and help me? I shouldn't be in here. Of course, what's your name? Have you got a contact number? My name is Watt. Just Watt. Dr. Watt. It was another hour before the Citroen was wearing 4 wheels, with 3 wheel studs holding them on. Loaded and ready to go, I looked up to the window to say goodbye, but the light was out. It was impossible to see the window without the light, so I shouted, "Bye, Wat, I'm off. I'll see you tomorrow and see if we can get you back to where you should be." No reply. I shouted another goodbye, which was met with the same disappointing silence, and then set off to the hotel. Tara, tea, shower, and a tale to tell. Tara was looking at me when I woke up. Apparently I actually said, "Where am I?" Slowly over a packet instant coffee and fiddly chai private eye-sized needed milks, I began to remember the previous fucking night all right. And then it hit me. "Tara, I've got to go back to give the bloke in the window a lift, the three-wheel nut bloke." "You're not making much sense. Somebody helped you. That was the AA, wasn't it?" said Tara. "No, this was after the AA. After the AA man went, I lost my wheel nuts and the bloke in the window told me what to do. He said he needed a lift. He'd gone to the wrong place." "What was his name?" Tara said. "Tara, you're a genius. What was his name?" "Well, I don't know, Polly. Can we go now, please?" I carried Tara's luggage downstairs to reception just ahead of her. The bell was too tempting, so I did. Ding! "Hello, my name is Martin," he said, pointing to his Martin badge, like this. "Checking out just one night. Tara, have you got the key?" Tara passed me the room key, which I placed on the desk. "Could you possibly give me the number of the large mansion castle-looking lighthouse that's around 7 miles away?" "That will be £47.50, please, cash or card?" "Card, thanks. You didn't answer me about the phone number for the large—" "Could you put your pin in, Mr. Hallam? Thank you." "No, and if you continue to ignore my requests, you'd better get the manager for me to talk to." Just as I finished talking, an older man and woman appeared, introducing themselves as the managers. I wasn't convinced. "If you're the managers, then where are your badges?" They took a step towards me before saying in unison, "Badges? Badges? We don't need no stinking badges." "Mr. Hallam, you're asking for something we can't give you. The institution that you're asking about has been closed for over 10 years. "That can't be true. I spoke to somebody in the open-lit window of that building last night. He helped me considerably. What are you saying? I imagine him." The two managers looked at each other knowingly. "And what did this so-called man help you with, Mr. Hallam?" "If you must know, he offered advice, very good practical advice, because I had lost my wheel nuts." "Ah, now we're getting to the bottom of it. You went a little crazy. Can you tell us about the person that you spoke to? What was his name, for starters?" "What was his name? I didn't go crazy. What was the name he gave me when I asked?" "And what was it?" asked the badgeless managers. What was his name?" This went on for 2 hours, say. In conclusion, we never got to the campsite. Me and Tara became really close friends, but decided the romantic spark in our relationship had died. I had returned to my car in the hotel car park, and all 4 wheel nuts were on all 4 wheels. There was no record of any AA assistance and no record of any incident on the A30. I drove past the grand castle light-looking building on the way home, and it was true. It was derelict, boarded up. To cap it all off, when I got my credit card bill, there was no record of the hotel payment whatsoever. I called Tara and explained. "Wish I'd hit the minibar now, in style," she said. "And had a cooked breakfast. Speak soon. Ciao, Polly."